Thank you so much for making time to join us. This is Sound Candid Talk, open forum political discussion show, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. While the world is in shock about the development in Tanzania. Now, Tanzania is one country that has sold itself to the rest of the world as the beacon of peace, the oasis of harmony and unity, where chaos, conflicts, and fights are not so much exhibited. But following the elections that took place on the 29th of October, amidst disquiet and, of course, oppressive measures deployed by the CCM government led by Mama Samia Hassan, it has made a manifestation of the Tanzania we never knew existed. It has been always believed that Tanzanians are a peace-loving. Tanzanians are not prone to violence. Protests are in Kenya and other parts of the world, but not in Tanzania. But, well, it is now clear that there's a limit to how much you can take advantage of the niceness of people. There is a limit to how much you can stifle people and put them under your ambit. They may play along for a while, but a time comes when they say enough is enough. And I think that enough is enough has come into play in the oasis of peace in a troubled world in Tanzania. Unconfirmed reports say Samia is on the run. What is clear is that all the music stars that participated into her campaign, their businesses and their whereabouts are in turmoil. There are reports that some of their businesses have been lynched, and the key music stars like Diamond that were on the forefront in the campaign for Mama Samia have fled the country already. Now, I would invite you, even as we start this discussion, on the premise of what led Tanzania to where it is. Because more than discussing what is happening, in my opinion, what's most important is that what lessons can the world carry from the situation in Tanzania right now? I have been to Tanzania several times at different times when we had different presidents. And there is how the society in Tanzania is closely managed in the sense that the community is cohesive, but in its cohesion, there is that aspect of always having an authority around, having that village elder, having that another grouping that is led by a particular leader and all that. And so the society is knit together, but not without an authority in place. And with that as their culture, it becomes very easy to, manage people without necessarily ensuring that their rights are not violated. And so it instills fear. And we can, as Kenyans, relate to that, especially those of you that grew up in the 80s and in the 70s and early 90s when we had the KANU rule. The KANU rule operated similarly in the sense that instill fear in the people, let the people be afraid of the government, and you will always manage them. And so and of course, when Tanzania translated from one party state to multi party state, it's not far fetched from Kenya. But I want us to draw the parallel between the two and to see what is the difference between the chaos in Tanzania right now and the chaos in Kenya. How come chaos in Kenya are managed and probably the state is able to diffuse and even end the chaos before they get out of place? But in Tanzania, it appears they are on autopilot. They're on autopilot, and nobody seems to have a grip on what is happening. And the interesting thing is that Lisu, the man in this conflict, is still behind bars. Okay, he was released by winning the case, but he refused to leave the police cell until the elections have taken place. And so it is very difficult to tell who is commanding the people to protest. And the protests are chaotic. There are unconfirmed reports of Samia running into hiding. And then, of course, there is also some pictures we are receiving about the SGR being lynched, the airport being taken over, foreigners stranded who are trying to get out of Tanzania before things get out of hand. And so this is unfamiliar grounds for the way things work in Tanzania, if you have been if you're familiar with how things work in Tanzania. And so this is one place Tanzania has never been in the of late or rather in recent history. And it is a place where I don't even think the police or the army of Tanzania was anticipating something like this. And so there seems to be no proper preparation for the same. And so they are caught unawares. Let's accept it as it is. But what led us to where we are? What is it that the CCM administration refused to adhere to that resulted into this? And we can date this as back as especially during Magufuli's presidency. Okay, Magufuli came into office. Rumors has it that he wasn't a popular candidate among the CCM, whatever candidates. He was favored. In the first nomination, it is said he came number 3. So he wasn't the favorite, not in the party, and he was also not the favorite in the country. But he came in with the reform agenda, which was mainly pro-people. And his pro-people approach made him be endeared to the people, that the people, uh, came around him and supported his policies and supported his leadership. And in his quest for reformation, he did a lot of economic reformation without proper political development. One of the things that was top on Magufuli's agenda was to stifle and, if possible, eliminate the opposition political parties. And to me, that is where we trace the problem in Tanzania right now. Unlike Nyerere, who, when there was agitation for multi-party politics, while he was in power, the people agitating for multi-party were the minority. The majority were for a single party state. But Nyerere said, even if the people agitating for multi-party are few, we must listen to them and give them their space, because they are also part of this great society. And he says, if you don't give them a listening ear and give them the space they require, The more you deny them, the more those numbers grow. And when those numbers have grown and you have not created room for them, they will overwhelm you and make it impossible for you to govern. And so you see the mind of Nyerere is that although he was the majority, he was leading the greatest party, he has an ear for the other side and always wanted to ensure that everybody is put in consideration in national decision. This, in my opinion, is something that Magufuli and Samia have failed to do. They believed that being in power is stopping every dissenting voice, silencing every other contrary voice, so that you are in power and you can command and everybody lies down. That kind of leadership has been passed with time. It is too late for you to impose yourself to the population. If you want to lead the people, you must let the people allow you to lead them. But if you want to force them to follow you, the repercussion is what you have seen in Tanzania and is far from over. And so these are some of the things that we need to carry along. And so the downfall of CCM and the downfall of Tanzania as a nation springs from the failure to prepare herself for the changes that are being demanded by the people. Unlike Kenya, when there was agitation for multi-party, Moi was wise. Okay? He resisted and resisted, but reached a place and said, no, if we continue like this, we will not manage. And of course, if you are a good history student, you know that Moi was not ready to leave office in 92. He wasn't prepared. He didn't have an exit strategy. And the agitation for multi-party had reached its peak. And so he said, insisting on single-party state is too late, but I have to prepare myself to get out of office. And so what happens? He accepts what the opposition was demanding and then look for a way to manage it so that he can gradually buy more time so that by the time he leaves office, the country is in a position to allow other dissenting voices to operate, but within a controlled space that is manageable. Unlike Magufuli and Samia, who thought that by silencing the opposition, arresting, abducting, intimidating, you are in power. Now that power is threatened. Now the situation is not the same again. Well, we'll be listening to the counsel by Nyerere, which in my opinion was neglected and is the reason why we are where we are as far as the situation in Tanzania is concerned. And then there, of course, we'll give you the updates of what's happening. We appreciate all of you that are joining. Please start by liking the video, sharing it with somebody, and of course, getting more people to join. I really salute all of you that are coming through for us. Looking forward to be joined by various contributors who will also be sharing their wisdom on the same. I hope Jakindu Bey will be able to join us. He lived part of his life in Tanzania, so he will be able to intimate us on what transpires in Tanzania and what has gone wrong or what is right about what is happening. I want also to apologize. We have not been able to do this live show for quite some time, but we've been active all through. And thank you for always being here and, of course, supporting Sound Candy Talk. We depend on you to keep going. And so don't discourage us. Please be an encouragement to us. Thank you so much. The people on the comment section, asanteni sana. Naomba tafadhali tumakinike kukaribishana na tukajifunze moja kwa mingine. So kwangu mimi naona shida kubwa hapa ni Magufuli kukosa kutumia nafasi yake kutengeneza mazingara ambayo yanafaa uongozi wa vyama vingi, na la yeye kuingia katika madaraka, na jukumu lake kubwa ni kumaliza vyama vya upinzani. Hiyo ilikuwa makosa makubwa, na hiyo ndio mojawapo ya mambo ambayo yamesababisha hii hali ambayo tuko nayo Tanzania. Na kama ili somo alitafikia wengi, basi nchi nyingi tu hapa Afrika sitajikuta mahali Tanzania imejikuta. Wakati huo unafika, masuala mengine yanakubalika, si eti ni starehe kwa kila mtu. Unayakubali kwa sababu muda wake umefika. Yes, ni kama mimba. Kama imefika mtoto kuzaliwa, hakuna kuomba muda tena. Demokrasia ni hivyo. Wakati demokrasia inakuwa, lazima utengeneze nafasi yake. So ni kama Tanzania walikaa sana, mimba inaendelea kukomaa, hao wamekataa kutengeneza nafasi ya hiyo mimba kuzaliwa. So imekuwa mtoto azaliwe barabarani azaliwe bila kuzuiliwa. Na hapa ndipo wengi tu wanapaswa kujifunza. Kwa hivyo karibu kwa show, naomba tafadhali umakinike kukaribisha mtu, alafu tukachambue siasa zetu. Hatutakaa sana, lakini wakati tuna muda hapa tutaweza kukuelewesha ni kipi hiki kinachoendelea na ni vipi tutakavyosonga mbele kwa mambo haya yote. Karibu, we are taking a short break. When we are back, we'll be bringing you what is happening, and thereafter we dive deep into the council of Mwalimu Nyerere on matters politics and how we arrive at a candidate for political parties before the general elections.
Tanzania is reeling from days of deadly unrest following this week's disputed elections, with the opposition claiming that at least 700 people have been killed nationwide, and the United Nations confirming credible reports of at least 10 deaths in 3 major cities. With the government insisting it is restoring order after what it calls isolated incidents, Kenya now finds itself acting as a buffer, tightening security at the Damanga border to stop the violence from spilling further across East Africa. Now, with fear rising and freedom shrinking, Tanzania faces its most perilous moment in years, a test not just of power, but of democracy itself. And Ashley Atieno has the details.
The aftermath of Tanzania's general election has turned deadly. What began as protests over a disrupted vote has spiraled into some of the country's worst unrest in years. In city after city, from Dar es Salaam to Morogoro and Shinyanga, anger has exploded over, with Tanzania's main opposition party, Chadema, saying the death toll is far higher than officials admit. Party spokesperson John Kitoka claims more than 700 people have been killed since Wednesday, citing reports from health workers and eyewitnesses across the country. Meanwhile, the United Nations says it has confirmed at least 10 deaths, urging restraint from both security forces and protesters.
We are alarmed by the deaths and injuries that have occurred in the ongoing election-related protests in Tanzania. Credible reports we have received indicate that at least 10 people were killed in Dar es Salaam, Shinyanga, and Morogoro as the security forces used firearms and tear gas to disperse protesters.
Curfews now blanket Dar es Salaam, and government offices have been touched. Internet access remains severely disrupted. The government insists these are isolated breaches of peace and says order will soon be restored. But on the streets, normal feels far away. At the Namanga border, the unrest has spilled into Kenya, where chaos erupted Thursday as protesters clashed with police and trade routes ground to a halt.
Our officers are competent enough to deal with any situations. If there will be any inconveniences in terms of movement of cargo and people, I believe that the officers at our points of entry and exit must be able to advise those who are moving in a manner that then we don't endanger anyone's life.
But as Kenya tightens security, anger continues to simmer. Mombasa-based activists are now demanding the release of Kenyan journalist Juma Shoka, who was arrested by Tanzanian authorities at the Horohoro border while documenting human rights abuses.
Waliomshika ni maafisa ambao walijitambulisha, manake walikuwa wamevaa plain clothes kutoka Tanzania. Tunakemea vikali kushikwa kwake na tunataka wachwe haraka iwezekanavyo. Na vile mambo yalivyo Tanzania, sijui utamfanyaje. Sasa tuna appeal tu kama Kenya itapita haraka na ili aachiliwe, maana tunahofia usalama wake.
Meanwhile, the European Parliament has denounced Tanzania's election as a fraud, saying it unfolded under repression, intimidation and fear. As the Electoral Commission continues to release results showing President Suluhu in commanding leads, the scene on Tanzanian streets tell a far different story, one of shattered trust, rising anger and fading hope. Ashley Atieno, NTV.
Tanzania is reeling from days of deadly unrest following this week's dispute.
Okay, there you have it, the updates from what's going on in Tanzania. Apologies, we could only share the audio of that particular video. We will be able to probably sort out what the issue is, then you get the video later. But you can see there are conflicting reports about the actual number of deaths. But Tanzania being what it is and what we, treated to, it is not far-fetched to say that 700 people are dead from this particular protest. These are, I would say, nationwide protests and countrywide protests. And Tanzania is a very secretive country. Secretive in the sense that the operations of the police and wherever those quelling the protests, it's top secret. And so what the human rights are reporting could not be an exaggeration. Don't forget that we had cases of abductions even during Magufuli's time. Dindi Lisu was shot 16 bullets in an attempt to silence him. That was in Magufuli's time. And so the high-handedness of the police officers and the authorities in dealing with the ordinary wananchi and then, of course, the opposition is not an exaggeration. And so I would that we put that in perspective. But it also appears that there is an overestimation of the capacity of the police in Tanzania. We all not to forget that Tanzania is a very big country. It's a very huge mass land. And managing chaos is very different from Kenya. Okay, the size of Tanzania is bigger than Kenya. And then, of course, the Kenyan environment is such that there are specific, heat places where you definitely anticipate chaos. And when the chaos erupt, there is how to deal with it. One, the Kenyan police are experienced into dealing with chaos such as this. They have been into that circumstance over and over. And so they at least know how to manage it. You noticed during this, was it before the Sabasaba demonstrations in Nairobi, that the police were way up earlier and then barricaded some roads, made some roads impassable, and then go out there to stop the population from invading the city center and all that. And so the managing of the crisis in Nairobi is not anything to compare to Tanzania. And so look at the number of the police officers in Tanzania. Look at the vastness of the wherever the land that they're supposed to be in charge. So they could be taking care of Dar es Salaam, their chaos in Dodoma, and then the chaos in Mwanza, in Morogoro. And these cities are also far apart from each other. Okay. And like Nairobi, you can, manage Nairobi, manage Mombasa, take care of Kisumu, and of course, Migori, and you are on top of the situation. But now I don't think Tanzania has enough police officers to take care of Mwanza, take care of Dodoma, take care of Dar es Salaam, take care of Morogoro, and other cities, Dodoma and the rest. And so it is clear that as at now they are overwhelmed. And what do police do when they are overwhelmed? They resort into shoot to kill. And this shoot to kill will be historical. It will be historical. And we just pray that the matter doesn't get so bad than it is already. But like I have observed, this is something that is happening uncalled for, unnecessary. It is all because people slept on their job. When the world was changing, they refused to change. When the world was demanding for change, they refused to prepare for change. They believed in the notion that says, as it was, so shall it be, world without end. Amen. It doesn't work that way always. And political changes, political development is a systematic growth that needs to be well managed. And of all the presidents in Tanzania, the person that understood this very well was Mwalimu Nyerere, the founding father of the nation of Tanzania. He had unusual insight into the future, and he had unusual way of assessing and evaluating the the election the management of the country in terms of development, that when a change was required, he was not resistant to that change. And so there is a warning that he gave, which I believe was what was neglected by CCM and was neglected by, of course, Samia, and these are the fruits. He gave a warning, a very serious warning on the matter. And the warning is, if the party does not listen to what the people are demanding, that particular political party will suffer the wrath of the people. And we can tell without mincing words that that's exactly what has happened in Tanzania. And this should serve as a lesson both for Kenya, for Uganda, and the rest of the African countries. The people are no longer there to be seen and not to be heard. The populace are no longer ignorant like you think, and you can no longer run the country by to the people. There are things that the people know that you are not even aware that they know. And so as changes take place, things must happen. And then, of course, a reminder before I play that clip by Nyerere is the history of our changes in terms of revolutions. The revolution of the 50s and the 60s led into the independence of the African continent. It all came from the soldiers that were taken by colonial masters to go and for their country. So these soldiers who fought in the Second World War are the ones that came back and were now beginning to question things. Why? While they were out there, they got exposed to what the white man was hiding from the black man in order to control the black man. Okay? The white man sold himself as the superstar, sold himself as being superhuman. And of course, every black person was to bow and worship the white man. But when these black soldiers went and participated into the Second World War, and of course fought against other whites, and then of course they saw the whites dying by bullet like everyone else, of course weak like everyone. So they began to say, these people are not superhuman. This Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Please confirm if you're able to get me now. I understand. I think you're back. And of course, I would want us to engage in this conversation. You can join in the conversation on the comment section by giving your views on the same. And of course, amsha mtu kwamba tukaangalie masuala haya kwa kina. Kwangu mimi ni muhimu tukajifunze kutokana na yale ambayo yanaendelea Tanzania. Kuna huyu Hosea anasema, let us pray for our neighbors Tanzania. A very important, of course, appeal there. We pray, but we also need to take counsel. and then ensure that we are, supportive in any way. And so let us not also be hands off, whatever it takes to restore the harmony and the order in Tanzania. Let it be deployed, but let it be within the framework of the provision of the Constitution, as well as the provision of what is humanly acceptable. The police officers, the security officers need not to kill people anyhow. And then, of course, don't defend the government at the expense of the masses. There are some justifiable reasons why there is unrest, and all of it. It's all because the leadership failed to do their job. Leadership failed to do their job, and this is very, very, very annoying, to say the least. It's very annoying because being a leader requires you to have, foresight, whereby you anticipate a problem and solve that problem. You cannot continue, doing what aggravates people and expect people to continue loving you and, of course, supporting you. And so, what is happening right now has been coming for quite some time in Tanzania, and it is important that Tanzanians and the leadership thereof begin to take serious the claims of the people, take serious the wisdom of the people. And that is the counsel that the late first president of Tanzania, was actively involved in the same. And so I want us to listen out to his counsel. I'm happy. I think Reverend Lala is now within the studio premises, and so we'll be able to let him join us. But before that, let's listen out to what Mwalimu Nyerere gave as a warning on what would happen if a political party refuses to heed to the demands of the people. Here we go.
Sasa nasema ni vizuri sasa wakasikiliza wananchi wanasemaje. Msipuuze kabisa hiyo. Na hiyo nasema, nasisitiza. Msidhani mnaweza mkapata ushindi mkipuuza maoni ya wananchi. Mkasema hili ni letu tu. Ni letu tu. Mnatoka kwenye kikao cha halmashauri kuu, alafu wenyewe mnakwenda kwenye pale mnakwenda kwenye kikao cha wateuzi, wanateua mmoja, mnasema kiulizwa kwa nini mnasema si letu tu. Lenu hamteui katibu wa chama. Mnateua mtu awe rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania. Kwa hiyo ni vizuri msikilize wananchi wanasema nini juu ya watu wenu hao. Msipuuze maoni ya wananchi hata kidogo. Chama kitakachopuuza maoni ya wananchi kinaweza kikalia kilio, asipatikane mtu wa kusaidia kupanguza machozi. Na ninachowaambia CCM na waambia vile vile na vyama vingine vile vile. Lazima msikilize wananchi wanasema nini. Kwa sababu kama wote ni sawa na wananchi wanampenda mmoja katika hao kuliko wengine, basi huyo ndiye anayefaa. Chama kitakachopuuza maoni ya wananchi kinaweza kikalia kilio, asipatikane mtu wa kusaidia kupanguza machozi.
There you have it. Now, if I had to make a list of my all-time favorite presidents, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere would be on top of the list. He was not an angel. He did a few things that people may say are dictatorial. Yeah, but then when you look closer, considering that he was a lone wolf trying to protect his country and himself from powerful Western forces, this man was a real hero of the continent. And we know for sure that it all came from his heart. Because when this president retired, he was broke. He was a poor man. He didn't even have a house. The military had to build one for him. Oh yes, true story. When he retired, he was not rich. Look at Kenya. People come into the presidency, they become super rich overnight. They're already rich. But when they come into the presidency, it is a money-making, money-minting thing. Please learn something, if it is possible for you to learn, from the life of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. And you know, the irony of it all, that house they built for Nyerere, he never lived in it. He was traveling all over the world, giving talks, traveling all over the place. The total time he spent in that house could not have been more than a month. 2-3 months tops. Most of the time he was out. And then shortly after that, he passed on. Bottom line, he did not need that house. He didn't need it. He never lived in it. If only we Africans could learn from the life of great Africans, Africa would be a better place by far. I just don't know. I don't know what can save Africa.
Sasa nasema ni vizuri sasa wakasikiliza.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to engage, drawing wisdom from Mwalimu Nyerere there on the decisions that are made by political parties and where they should ensure that they don't ignore the undertones, they don't ignore the murmurings, they don't ignore the discomfort of the population when it comes to who leads the country. I would that this could be one of the causes of what we are experiencing in Tanzania right now, because following the politics of Tanzania for the past year or so, you will notice not everybody was dancing and singing the music of Mama and the music of CCM. We had all manner of discomfort about her leadership, not necessarily that she was bad, but this leadership structure, decisions being made, and then how she was treating the opposition. It wasn't sitting well with the rest of the population, and it was all ignored. Why? They believed that state machinery and state power will be able to contain the country no matter what happens. And that's why they went into the elections without considering the insistence of the opposition in ensuring that reforms were needed before we have free, fair election. I'm happy Reverend Lala is here. Reverend Lala, long time, how are you? Sorry, let me see, your mic seems to be off. Okay. Are you okay now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're here. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Good to see you, Bernard, my brother, and all of you in the background. And it's a sad day. It's really, really sad. It's sad because, number one, as you stated, that I think is Kumekucha stated that when will we learn as Africans? When will we? Okay. Because we had Baba with us, and he was embodiment of Nyerere, was embodiment of Mandela's, embodiment of all these leaders we had. Kenya had him. He was with us. He lived with us. He showed us, what leadership is all about. Not about. He said that I think in one of his speeches, Baba stated that he was doing this not for himself, but for posterity. In other words, it was not about him, it's about the nation. And that's what leadership is all about. So it's a sad day because watching Tanzania, what's going on, here is a country that had so much promise. We saw the economy beginning to catch up. We saw the change, major project undertaken by Tanzanian money, shillings, no money outside, which has never been done in most African countries because we keep on borrowing all the time. Tanzania was doing it. So there were things that were happening in Tanzania that were very promising to the continent. But looking at what's going on is so sad, because we know that the nation will not be the same again. And the reason is very simple. Leadership that does not listen to the voice of the people. So when we don't listen to the voice of the people, what happens generally is that the floodgate, there's an opening that just like Gideon, the Amalekites would come and the other nation would join them in ransacking, in exploiting and plundering Israel. You see, so when we open doors, it's not just about Mama Suluhu, but they are enemies of Africa that want to see something like this happening. Just like Patrick Lumumba was killed by Mobutu. But now we are learning that was not about Mobutu and Lumumba. It was other forces, the CIAs and others outside. There is a hand outside of Africa that would want to see chaos, because that's what they predict, that we have chaotic people. That is one casualty. The other one is when Tanzania is not doing well, Kenya cannot do well. So it's a regional problem. So when you see things going down, it is more than just a Mama Suluhu. Okay, Mama Suluhu triggered it because she did not do the right thing.
Sorry, we are losing you, Reverend Lala.
Coming to exploit. And
okay,
can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, you're back. Go ahead.
Okay. What we have done is we are opening the floodgate, and the enemies are coming in, and the enemies are interested in our natural resources. Okay, they are not interested in you and me, because if you try to escape, you're going to be kicked, dropped in the ocean out there. All they're interested in is your gold, oil, and all these wonderful things that Africa has, because we are the only continent with some of these rare products on the earth. That's how blessed we are. So these are the images that actually creates conditions where this external world will come and take over. The Chinese, the Americans, the Canadians, the others, they're coming, and they're the one who will bring us peace. Now that we are not unable to take care of ourselves. So it's a sad day. It's very, very sad. So anybody laughing at Tanzania, let's laugh at ourselves. People like Mama Samia Ruto and others should go, so that we have clean, we have the Baba type of people who are thinking about the future of the continent. So for me, it's a sad day, very, very sad. And I pray that Tanzania can be stabilized, but above all, that justice and truth and good governance, democratic process take hold of Tanzania. It's maybe I miss Jakindube. I don't know where he is, but I enjoy his analysis, because he's able to see sometimes beyond what we see. Okay, so I think let us all pray, but pray much more for truth, good governance, true leadership that look beyond wealth and filling their pockets with the children's money. Women have not much. In other words, you look at the masses of our people, we are still really worse off. Even those people who are in refugee camp in Palestine, and look at their condition, the way they live, sometimes I wonder whether we are also still in those refugee camps. Okay, the mass majority of our people. So Bernard is let's ask for democracy, but let's also be responsible enough not to look for a personality, but to look for an ideal, an idea, and a system that will help us to express our democratic right in a way that will leave a lasting legacy. And to me, I go back to Baba. Baba is one of the greatest human beings who ever graced this earth. Knowing his fight was not against directly against the colonial masters who are controlling us, but against our own. When you fight from within, and those within forces are very lethal. They are very devious. They don't listen, like what we see. We don't listen. So let's pray that God will help us to listen and love our content enough to be able to stand for truth and justice. And so Tanzania can be an example of a place that has learned, because they had Nyerere. They have had a system. All this our mama would have done is to open the space. There was no reason why she was afraid, because she was riding on Magufuli and people seem to have embraced her. But for some reason, best known to herself and her few buddies, she messed it, completely messed it. So she needs to go. But we need to know how that is done so that we retain Tanzania, we retain Kenya and Uganda in a place where they are able now to take off and do well for the people of the countries, the East African countries. Back to you, Bernard.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Lala, for that, and we really appreciate it. Probably a follow-up question. You are in the space of dealing with critical situation. Uh, what will be your counsel? Because what we are seeing happening and the pictures we are receiving from Tanzania, it's like the protests and the violence is on autopilot. The the security forces seem to be overwhelmed, and the citizens are not taking any of the nonsense in quotes by them taking over. Now I hear the airport is taken over, the SGR has been put on fire, and they are marching towards State House. There was also the aspect of Parliament, okay, being the focus of the masses. What would be your counsel in arresting a situation like this? Because they seem to be very green, unlike Kenya, where the NIS and the DCI, the security forces, seem to be lethal in arresting the situation and bringing back order. This is second day, and the chaos are increasing. What would be your counsel? Let's say you are addressing the people in charge of security in Tanzania. What would you advise them?
Bernard, this it's very difficult because number one, the mistake made is to block out the media communication. Because now what you're left with people is imagination, what they're thinking, people making up stories that may not be true or maybe worse. Okay. One of the things in managing a crisis is communication. You must communicate. That is necessary at this moment. Number two, if not number one, that is, at this juncture, all the parties, what Tanzania, the leaders of all the parties should be meeting somewhere with Suluhu, all of them together. That may have an effect on that feeling that we are losing. So when they see them together, everyone begin to feel like their voice is being heard. Because it doesn't matter what Mama Suluhu say, that will just make them more angry. But if she meets those Tundusi, whatever his name is, and the others, key stakeholders of the nation at this moment. They were Tanzania, not his party, but everyone else. That is needed now, urgently, very, very quickly. Even if it means them flying them out to Kenya or to Tanzania or to a neighboring country to go and meet there. Let people believe that their leaders can do something. Okay. And that first step is a bold one, is to meet, because this idea of beating and saying no, this is not the time for that. This is a crisis management, and they should meet immediately. Leadership on the outside, the country, continent, and all that. I believe if Baba would have been there, if Baba was alive, Baba would have been meeting Suluhu and all those leaders. I was listening to Baba when he had gone to Tanzania, and I think Tanzania was meeting all the, went for a particular reason, but wanted to make sure that he met all those detainees, former detainees, and others. So the idea there is to bring the people together that people believe have been justly mistreated or being jailed because they're fighting for them. This is not the time to say, Tisini to Mishinda. All of us have lost. Everyone has lost. So coming together is number one. Communication, restore communication, and come together. That humility itself will begin to speak to the conscience of our young people, actually. And so to me, I think those two are the major steps that are needed. And then maybe a joint communique, from either the State House or whatever country they are in, whatever place they are meeting, that we are managing this together as a nation, that we are in a crisis. There's a problem. We made a mistake, and we will listen to all of you. I think that is a step that must be taken because, as I stated, external forces are there to laugh at us. Okay? And I'll give you an example. Okay? Baba dies, and the media outside of Kenya only focuses on when there is a little crisis, people are stampeded and others. They don't tell you about the good things and what's going on in Africa, what Baba did. In fact, they block it out as much as possible. And that's how it is, that's how Africa is treated. So I think it's important for us to see these battles that we have in the continent, look at them more than just about the little community or the little country, but look at it from a continental perspective and global perspective. What is it that is really going on? Because I think we have been missing that equation. So we end up following this person who is being financed from outside, and we think they really love us when actually they don't. Some NGOs don't really care much about us. So I think it's a time for us to make sure that we are listening to those other forces that basically are there for their own self-interest instead of really coming to help us. And so that's the way I would look at it. Back to you, Bernard.
Okay, thank you so much, Reverend Lala. I would also want your thought on the aspect of, what's unique about the Tanzania situation is that the masses have boycotted the elections. Boycotted elections. They refused to participate in an election because it had a preset winner, and they meant nothing. And then on the day of the election is when now they are protesting. So they are not even protesting the results of the elections. They are protesting the way the entire election preparation and implementation was done. Secondly, there is also some information that the UN is now sanctioning the Electoral Commission of Tanzania not to announce the result of the election. I don't know what will be your message to the leader of that particular election process. What is the wisest thing to do beside the meeting, the maybe the reconciliation between Tundu Lissu and Samia and other political players? If you are to speak to the chairman of that electoral commission and is charged with the responsibility to declare the winner of an election in this crisis, would he be continuing to announce the result or should he desist from the same?
Bernard, I think Mama Wetu messed so badly. Even bad leaders in Africa, they may jail those they see as opponents, and only towards the last week or last month, whatever, they release them when they are not quite organized so that they can claim they won. But here is Our Lady keeping these people in jail or picking them at the last minute. That's the worst form of abuse of that office. So you go to the booth where it is you versus you, Suluhu Hassan versus Suluhu. That was what on the ballot. Okay, so that was really would evoke the venom, the anger that is being expressed, even a greater degree. So I think she messed very, very badly. Now, when we look at the so-called international or global, the UN, I don't put a lot of weight on them because they tend to go by the pressure. They listen where things are going. And if they are moving in the direction they want, the person they like, then they will certify those elections, okay? And they want people to move on. Okay, so they have their own agenda. That's why I'm telling my fellow African wa Tanzania wenzangu na wa Kenya wenzangu, hii nchi ni yetu. Okay, rasilimali Mungu ametupa ni zetu. Now we have to protect it ourselves. Okay, and the best thing is to do things the right way. And those external forces, how by UN and others, they will listen, they'll follow what we are doing, our lead. But if we don't, watakuja na their own vikwazo. And those are ways to get to us. When we talk about the UN, there are other interests also. Remember, each member nation has a particular interest in that nation. Okay? And generally, it is the natural resources, what Africa can bring to the world, okay? And they want to be the first people to get it. So there's no genuineness in those relationships. There's more parasitic. They know that you're down, so they want to come in now to get what they want. So I don't put a lot of weight on them. But for this purpose, refusing to, I think it's fine because there was no election when you think about it. What she did. So this should be scrapped completely. And I think Mama Suluhu should simply, even if she wins militarily, morally, and in every other way, she has lost. So she has got very little capital, to use to leverage, herself, as a leader of the people. So she's lost it. So an exit strategy is what is really needed now. And I think the best way is to call all the parties together. Let them work together as a team right now, and maybe a transitional system that would allow them to get in another election. Because right now, and I don't want to see military take over, because that's another direction that may not be good, based on the history. But still, there may be a good person in the military, but I would want to see the military take over. But I think let them be humble enough to get together and and ask Tanzanians what just vile Nyerere amesema, what is the people saying, who are the leaders that will guide us through this process, and that's where I look at it. So I don't want us to give up the idea of democracy and go to the military kind of rule unless we have somebody like Traore, who can be able to help for the time being. But at the end of the day, election would be the right way to go.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Lala. Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing to engage here about the chaos in Tanzania following the shambolic elections that have resulted into countrywide protests, and the violence is resulting into deaths. We'll be sharing that video about the reports of what's happening in Tanzania right now. When we are back, we'll be looking into in depth. Is there any relationship between what is going on in West Africa with what has changed drastically in Tanzania? Because the Tanzania population has never been known with this level of violence and with this level of, resistance against administration. What is it that is in play? Let's get the picture of what's going on, and thereafter we get back and break down again. Asanteni sana.
Tanzania is reeling from days of deadly unrest following this week's disputed elections, with the opposition claiming that at least 700 people have been killed nationwide, and the United Nations confirming credible reports of at least 10 deaths in 3 major cities. With the government insisting it is restoring order after what it calls isolated incidents, Kenya now finds itself acting as a buffer, tightening security at the Damanga border to stop the violence from spilling further across East Africa. Now, with fear rising and freedom shrinking, Tanzania faces its most perilous moment in years, a test not just of power, but of democracy itself. And Viz Ashley Atieno has the details.
The aftermath of Tanzania's general election has turned deadly. What began as protests over a disrupted vote has spiraled into some of the country's worst unrest in years. In city after city, from Dar es Salaam to Morogoro and Shinyanga, anger has exploded over, with Tanzania's main opposition party, Chadema, saying the death toll is far higher than officials admit. Party spokesperson John Kitoka claims more than 700 people have been killed since Wednesday, citing reports from health workers and eyewitnesses across the country. Meanwhile, the United Nations says it has confirmed at least 10 deaths, urging restraint from both security forces and protesters.
We are alarmed by the deaths and injuries that have occurred in the ongoing election-related protests in Tanzania. Credible reports we have received indicate that at least 10 people were killed in Dar es Salaam, Shinyanga, and Morogoro as the security forces used firearms and tear gas to disperse protesters.
Curfews now blanket Dar es Salaam, and government offices have been touched. Internet access remains severely disrupted. The government insists these are isolated breaches of peace and says order will soon be restored. But on the streets, normal feels far away. At the Namanga border, the unrest has spilled into Kenya, where chaos erupted Thursday as protesters clashed with police and trade routes ground to a halt.
Our officers are competent enough to deal with any situations. If there will be any inconveniences in terms of movement of cargo and people, I believe that the officers at our points of entry and exit must be able to advise those who are moving in a manner that then we don't endanger anyone's life.
But as Kenya tightens security, anger continues to simmer. Mombasa-based activists are now demanding the release of Kenyan journalist Juma Shoka, who was arrested by Tanzanian authorities at the Horohoro border while documenting human rights abuses.
Waliomshika ni maafisa ambao walijitambulisha, manake walikuwa wamevaa plainclothes kutoka Tanzania. Tunakemea vikali kushikwa kwake, na tunataka awachwe haraka iwezekanavyo.
Na vile mambo yalivyo Tanzania, sijui utamfanyaje. Sasa tuna appeal tu kama Kenya inaweza ikapita haraka na ili achiliwe, maana tunahofia usalama wake.
Meanwhile, the European Parliament has denounced Tanzania's election as a fraud, saying it unfolded under repression, intimidation and fear. As the Electoral Commission continues to release results showing President Suluhu in commanding leads, the scene on Tanzanian streets tell a far different story, one of shattered trust, rising anger and fading hope. Ashley Atieno, NTV.
Okay, there you have it, Reverend Lala. What is your take on the same, especially in relation to the media and now journalists being picked for documenting abuses that are taking place in Tanzania?
Bernard, these are the fears of insecure government like Suluhu. I don't think it began to emerge that she probably was not the right leader, okay, for the nation, because she had so much, she was given so much in terms of trust that people put in her, and we loved her. Everybody seemed to love this woman because she inherited, I would say, a thriving economy from Magufuli, somebody who was genuinely loved. He had his own challenges, but there's a sense in which Tanzanians love Magufuli, okay? He had his own challenges, but it seems to me that she focused on some of the weaknesses maybe of Magufuli as the strength, instead of using this opportunity to fulfill some of those Magufuli's initiatives of expanding the economy and speaking for the downtrodden, as Magufuli used to do. You know, there were a lot of good things that she could have done to say, I'm carrying on and finishing this wonderful work that Magufuli has done. That would have given her a launch pad for basically for this election, you know, to run on, okay? And that way, it would have been impossible to beat her. I didn't think they would beat her. What she could have done is to liberalize, you know, release those political prisoners and others, and she would win. Here is a woman who she had everything in his hand. Okay, so I think she's squandered that, and she's hurt the nation. She has got no moral, you know, authority to be able to stay in power, and so arresting people is just showing how insecure she is. Okay, and with that insecurity, Tanzania cannot go forward. Because one of the things about development, what we know about economic development is perception. If you're perceived as corrupt, you get your credit rating goes down, and you will not get good credit. For example, Israel, you know, gets all these loans, but it's almost like interest rate is so low that they're able to use that money to produce things and sell in the world market, while Kenya going out there or Tanzania will go out there and get the money and get it at a very high interest, where you cannot use that money to produce anything, because if you do, you sell it at exorbitant price because you can't make any money. So this is an economic issue. So Mama Suluhu has to go. To save Tanzania, and the best way is to, first of all, find someone who is credible to be able to bring all of you together. And these African leaders should be out there, those who have credibility, you know, to go out there and begin this negotiation. We don't have Bishop Tutu right now to initiate. We don't have Mandela's, we don't have Baba, but there are others who could do that. Nuns are not there, but something has to be done quickly. and it's for the better, for the good of the region, that Tanzania, is stabilized as soon as possible. So that's our prayer. Back to you, Bernard.
All right. Thank you. What is the fear? They have switched off the internet. They are trying to keep what is happening in the country in the dark. Is this how to manage the crisis, and or is misguided information? Because what I see here is that it appears that the Uganda security, or whatever the Tanzanian security heads are thinking in the 60s and in the 80s. They are not aware that the world has become a global village. So the shutting down of the internet, the controlling of the news reporters. We had Rally Mado for CNN says there is nothing, there is no need of him going to cover the elections in Tanzania because he will not be allowed to relay what is happening. So, what is your counsel on this matter?
Bernard, the sad thing is that for Tanzania is almost as if this was something that they have been working on, okay? Because from the COVID time, there's always been that fear, which is legitimate. A country can be afraid because without people come in to do their own thing. But the more you close yourself in, the danger you get yourself into. This is exactly what has happened. For Tanzania, it's not just about Gen Z pricing, but systematically they have been closing the door slowly by slowly, even much more. So you put twisted people where there's nothing else to lose. And that's where we are right now. So people like Larry Madowa should have been in there, you know. Uh, uh, if you want to develop your economy, you want to protect what you have on the inside, you got to open doors for others who will criticize you, some who will love you. And as long as you do things honestly, you'll do okay. There are people who will fight and defend. And the sad thing is that after a month or so, Tanzania will start looking back and saying, what really happened to us? What really happened to us? We've destroyed what we have. Look at Libya. Where's Libya? It's gone. Look at Iraq. Iraq is on its knee. Look at countries that were prosperous. We are thinking things are going on well. It's gone. Okay? And they can't rise because the dynamics have shifted so much. And so Tanzania, if it's not careful, it can end up big there. And destabilize Tanzania, I'm telling you, is sad for Kenya because it's going to be the same thing, if not worse, in Kenya. Okay, so I think we got to find a way, to Baba is gone. God, we have to give us a Baba because Baba was the Baba of the region. People may disagree with me, but Baba was the Baba of the region, and part of that is part of the feeling they have, the emptiness that Baba is not there. Yeah, Baba. And Baba, such kind of people are needed. And I pray for us Kenyans, let's not laugh at Uganda, at that Uganda or Tanzania. Let us see how we can help them with our knowledge, with our experiences and all that, knowing that at the end of the day, it's not about anger, but it's really a controlled anger. You're looking at what's going on and making sure that we don't take it overboard where we lose everything we have. And in one way, Baba helped us to see some of that, even though we disagreed with him. But to an extent, he helped us restore what we have. So we still have a nation, okay? And so Tanzania can learn something, and Mama Suluhu has to come down. The space has to be open and quickly. Let them do it very quickly. And people can be calmed, okay? And that's what I think. Back to you.
Oh, thank you very much. From the clip we have just watched, you see that their claims of restoring order and restoring normalcy. it beats my understanding because you want to restore order without addressing what brought about disorder. When we talk about the sham election, you don't want to address it. uh, Respond to what the people are demanding in terms of elections, you are not, looking in that direction. You just want people to go back to normal life without, making sure that what made them angry is being addressed. So, are you not seeing here a situation whereby the Tanzanian authorities are fighting a losing game, a losing war, a losing fight? Because if the people took to the street because they were denied their right to exercise their basic right of choosing their leader, you want democracy, but you don't want democracy to give the results that democracy should give. What Mzee Jakindube tells us here, we adopt things that we don't understand and we want to exercise them in a way that they are not exercised. We don't want to obey the rules of democracy, but we want to be looked as a democratic country. And so, like what is happening here, it's clear that you want to have an election, but those elections should not decide the leader. We should already have a leader. We just go to elections as a routine, as a normal passage. But the really leaders and the really outcome is already predetermined. And so,
Bernard,
yeah,
you see what the whatever Chama cha Mapinduzi was trying to do is okay if you are talking about a party. You want your own leaders in the party, somebody who can represent you to go and win the general election. You don't do it for everybody. But what they are trying to do is as if everybody is that Chama cha Mapinduzi. So they are trying to create their own leadership there. No, that is just a party. That's not the nation. So you can't mistake a nation for a party. And I think they're learning it, but it's too late. People have died. But Chama cha Mapinduzi can stay a party. But now they're contaminated with whatever's happened. Uh, Parties are formed to win elections. So you try to put the best candidate to win for you. The candidate for Chama cha Mapinduzi was Mama. Was she the best person to win? Okay, then that the members can determine if they don't find themselves, happy, they can move to another party. Okay, but you can't impose that system on a nation. Okay, then there's no point. You have a king. You don't need a president. Just have a king and abolish political parties and lie to us that there's a party. Parties are allowed to campaign, and especially when you keep them in jail, okay? And what people are voting, and then you expect people to. I mean, I don't know where these people are coming from. It's very sad, though. Yeah, very, very sad.
yes, because what you are bringing up is very credible, in the sense that it is said that the CCM constitution stipulates that when there is a general election, uh, the people who wants to run on the CCM ticket should be subjected to nomination at the party level. Okay, so Mama Suluhu and the rest were supposed to be taken through nomination, and the democracy within the party started there, whereby they wanted to overlook that clause, okay, and make Mama Suluhu an automatic candidate for CCM. And so some people within CCM said, no, the constitution is clear. We must subject the people so that we come up with a candidate that is acceptable countrywide. And so there was some deal-dallying, some delays here and there, and then they ended up settling for Masuluhu because she's already a sitting president and she should not be subjected to competing for the ticket with the rest of the people. So the control of that democracy wasn't just nationwide, it began within the party. So she defeated democracy in the party, and then she wants now to impose it to the rest of the country. By what? Elimination method. Any strong candidate within the opposition should be frustrated so that they don't run. And then she will have a direct pass. And the direct pass has landed us in the chaos where we are. So don't you see that if we don't allow democracy to thrive, it will fight us by failing to deliver what we wish for?
Uh, 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 I think you made it much more clearer. There has to be um, a feeling that um, there's fairness in who becomes, whether it's an MP or a presidential candidate, and the party has to do their own elections. And then they present their candidate, all of them go behind that candidate and win. And to me, I thought Mama Suluhu had a great chance because economically, I don't think Tanzania has done bad at all. Okay, they've tried to do a lot of things under Magufuli that were good on the economic front, but on the social, the political side, is where they messed up. Okay, she could give me a second. Easily, just playing the Magufuli, and also just the only focus you liberalize, let people go and campaign. And I'm telling you, the opposition would have not made it because people don't want to. If they're prospering, if the economy is doing better and all that, they don't want to change that. But she messed when she carried that fear, that anxiety, that insecurity into the campaign, which made her frustrate everybody else, other parties, and make a dictator. And so she was very vulnerable to that. And then, of course, we can't also ignore the fact that the Kenyans were pissed off. Kenyans had a lot to do with some of the things that I'm sorry to say that, but I pray that we genuinely pray, for Tanzania so that it come up. One of the people, if she did a job well, I would have even gone to campaign for her. If she allowed other parties to work and the economy was going on well, because we know very well that Magufuli was able to control, fight corruption, and there were genuine results, good ones, that pissed the rest of the world. They didn't like Magufuli that much. So there are good things we can say about Magufuli. The insecurity is the other side, which with other parties of social event, front, and that's where there was some challenges. So to me, it's a very sad case. It's a very, very sad case. For this woman to have done what she's done up to the moment. Yeah.
Okay, on the same note, Reverend Lala, on the same note, there is, you said Baba is not there, there's no tutu uh, to lead in the reconciliation or process or recovery process. I want you, in your wisdom, also to share your light on the role of Kikwete. Kikwete is a former president, and Kikwete is very active in the CCM politics. Having served as president for 10 years, why would he be presiding over a country in such a situation when he's an exposed person? He has served as president, because we may be placing the blame on Mama Suluhu when she's green. And remember, she is not from a political background. She came from the NGO background, got into politics, served one term as, I think, a women representative, then another term as a member of parliament, and suddenly found herself as deputy president and now president. The rest of the responsibility of this chaos and the shambolic approach to party politics should rest on Kikwete. What is your take on that? Or what is Kikwete's role in misleading Mama Suluhu?
Uh, we can only speculate, but the leader is Mama. Kikwete may have some influence, advising, has been there as a president and give ideas here and there. And Kikwete is a more consensus guy to me. It looked like he was a compromise, and listening to every side. To me, that's kind of personality that he brings out there. So in terms of trying to negotiate between the parties, I think that can be his role. He can try to do that. The drawback is that he is part of CCM. Okay, is part of CCM. Being part of CCM, suspiciously, the other people look at him. So playing the role of a mediator may not be his role, though he can do it as a former president, coming to people, telling them that we got this together, we can work on it, convincing Mama Suluhu that to kind of step down from that ivory tower where she is up there, and so the kind of influence, when you're a president, you can choose whom to listen or not to listen to. Unless there's some things that I don't know. But there's something else that I want to bring out here. This was a woman, Now I'm not, using that woman card in a bad way. But there are people that had a hard time accepting a woman as a president. Okay, and so you can see if it's a pupil, a tutelage, it may be a problem trying to, help this woman to play into that role if there are people who didn't like the idea of a woman. Secondly, she's from the island, okay, and the vice president, the president for the island is there, and her now. So there's maybe some jealousy between the island and the mainland, in terms of leadership. So we don't know the dynamic, the fight that we're going on there. I could hear some words here and there, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the president. You're the one that people look up to, and you can get counsel from other people. One of the mistakes she made, I think that is haunting her, is talking the way she talked about Kenya. Okay, that was not very diplomatic. There are ways you could say things, but you don't want to put in a way where it can be misconstrued to mean that you are laughing at your neighbor. You may have had a point, but the way you come across, your own people will start looking at you and saying, so this woman, we are nice, we are bending for her, but look at the way she's handling things, okay? And that Ruto's also the same problem with Ruto, Baba and others trying to help him, but it cannot be helped, okay? So the question about Mama is how did she feel about herself as a woman? Okay, was she able to take constructive criticism from other people in the system? Was she able to learn? Or she was, an ideologue, in her own little world, and she was not listening to anybody else, including Kikwete. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe somebody will help us understand, details how she got to this point where she did listen and just talk anything, thinking that she's secure. It's kind of like Titanic, if you watch the movie Titanic, the owner, the builder of the ship, declared that the ship is unsinkable. There's nobody that can sink the ship. And so when he took the voyage from England, coming to the US, and started going down, people didn't believe that thing could go down. So they are having a party on the ship and they're dancing and happy, but the ship is sinking. It seems to me Mama Suluhu was one of the people having a party, not knowing that this is sinkable. And the way she behaved, I think did not help at all. So it could be simply more than just being a woman. I think there are some things that she could have learned, and she also has to remember that she's not Magufuli. If you're not Magufuli, there are things you can't do. You can get away with it because Magufuli can come to a place and talk to the lowest person, and even if you plan to rebel and they solve a problem with the top of the vehicle, it's gone and people are happy. And there you are, you don't know what to do. So she's not Magufuli, and she didn't understand that either. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Reverend Lala, for bringing that up. But I'm not through with Kikwete in the sense that even the decision of Mama Suluhu being Magufuli's running mate, okay, Kikwete was in the committee that decided that Mama Suluhu should be the running mate of Magufuli. It wasn't all solely the decision of Magufuli. And then now Magufuli is unfortunately dead. Who takes over to manage the crisis? Kikwete has to step in as a former president and still the custodian of Chama Chama Pinduzi. Now, having been exercised in party politics and the historical politics of Tanzania, and then, of course, there is also the unrest between the island president and the land president. Now, unfortunately, Magufuli did not finish his term as the mass land president. It fell on Mama Suluhu. And now the mainland people, okay, are happy that Mama has been able to hold the country together to bring it to an election. Why can't she allow the democratic process to give us a candidate? Why should he insist that she has to run and she has to be the sole candidate, knowing that it was the presidents of the mainland that she participated into leading? And so you being Kikwete, who has been in this space for long, you must have a way of predicting that if this thing goes the way Mama is suggesting or the way the political party is suggesting, it will result into this particular chaos. So as a president, we are not a former president, we are not even at the place of him mediating the situation. It's why didn't he use foresight to abort the process like Nyerere would do? This matter is not sitting well with the people of the island and people of the mainland. Let us not go into election divided. Let's first of all do what? Meet and come up with an agreement so that when we get into the elections, we are getting into election as one. It is clear that the Tanzanian elections right now, they have arrived on the date of election when they are already divided. And what we are seeing is just an outcome of a crisis that has been boiling all along and somebody has been ignoring. And if there is an eye that would see this in good time and be able to diffuse it, should have been Kikwete. So does Kikwete have a role into allowing things to be the way they are? And probably this is assumption, probably he is the puppet of the foreign powers that were kicked away by Magufuli so that they can find their way back into controlling the minerals.
Bernard, I can't. I really don't know, but it sounds very logical that some role definitely as a former president, he is probably number one advisor to the president. And what we don't know, at the end of the day, the president has to have a brain of our own. And so how much was she, or has she been a student of Magufuli? That's another question. Because if Kikwete, because Kikwete we know had a good relationship with people out here. Okay, so the question is, what is the role of Kikwete there? So it's almost like a traitor of some kind. I don't know. I can't go that far, but something worth pursuing and looking at what really went on. But on the other hand, at the end of the day, it is Mama Suluhu, because if you start meddling or trying to persuade and all that, they start calling you, meddling in the new administration. In fact, they want to stay away as much as possible from where I am. If an ex-president stays away unless they seek their, input here and there. Otherwise, they are not supposed to be seen around that office. But as a party now, it's a different thing altogether.
Could we throw this in the Kenyan situation? Okay, we already have such a situation in Kenya right now. The Jubilee Party is being led by the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay, it has this week declared Matiang'i to be their candidate. Okay, that. So if Matiang'i becomes president, or rather Matiang'i runs on Jubilee ticket, the supremacy or the influence of Uhuru Kenyatta over the party and over the leadership of Matiang'i cannot be wished away.
It cannot be wished away, but if we insert more powers, then you'll say Matiang'i is weak.
Not insert more powers. For example, we are looking at Matiang'i as an outsider. He has not been a member of Jubilee. Then he's been brought into Jubilee. So most of the Jubilee operatives are still, the strings are being pulled by who? Uhuru Kenyatta. So how Matiang'i carries himself in Jubilee will be more of Uhuru creating room for him, Uhuru showing him, this is how you say here, this is how you say here. You must be able to operate to win win the backup of the people within the party. But if I have come to your house and you're not giving me orientation, toilet iko huku, bafu iko huku, jikoni iko huku, na hapa ndivyo tunakaa. You are throwing me in your house and leaving me there stranded. How? And then you say,
politically, Bernard, politically is very tricky. Here in this country, we had Biden, and the only fight that here, okay, Biden did very well. Economically, everything was going on well, but they always wanted to tie him to Obama. So there are people who believe, because they knew there are pockets that didn't like Obama for some racial reasons and others. So they always tie Biden. Biden is sleeping, Obama is running the show. Obama is running the show. The idea is to weaken him. So I don't know whether the president would like to be seen tied so much to the former president, because that also is a weakness that can be exploited very badly. So it's kind of hard to know. But I'm sure definitely Kikwete had some influence. But knowing his personality, and I think probably use a lot of maybe diplomacy in terms of getting what he wants, based on his character. I don't know, but Africa, there's so much money going around to buy our leaders that that's the sad part. Yeah. And that's the tragedy of even what's going on in Tanzania. It bothers me a lot. It really does. It really does.
Exactly. Maybe to throw in this aspect also, still dealing with former president. You remember
Mm,
the phone call between Uhuru Kenyatta and Baba about Ruto, okay, in
mm,
the
mm,
heat of the Gen Z protest, okay,
mm,
that Uhuru Kenyatta calls Baba and say, please talk to this man. He seems not to be getting what is happening. If this thing is not arrested now, it can escalate and get out of hand. So,
mm,
as
mm,
former president, you are able to, of course, by experience, having been a consumer of intelligence and having participated into stealing situations that were getting out of hand during your leadership, you should be able to discern that if we are detaining this detainee and abducting this one, and the population are complaining about this, that is not a proper environment for us to demand that election should go this direction. And so, for us to diffuse this, one, we should either postpone the elections or look for a middle ground where we negotiate so that when we are running, the country does not fall apart. We don't seem to be seeing that in this situation. It's like somebody making decisions about the Tanzania election was a naive, somebody who has not been in that space. And of course, this person who has not been in that space is Mama Suluhu. Okay. It was Mama Suluhu solely making these decisions. And when these decisions were being made, Muzee, to now Mkapa is not there, Nyerere is not there, the other key leaders are not there, Magufuli is not there. The only mzee hapa ambaye ni wa boma ambaye anaweza kushikilia nchi pamoja na kushikilia boma pamoja ni Kikwete.
mhm.
Mbona Kikwete haonekani akihusika katika haya maswala? Ni yeye ambaye alifikiria haya akayapanga.
Ah, hapo sijui ndugu yangu, hapo sijui. Somebody will have to ask him those questions one of these days as part of the discussion, because even when that Tundu, whatever his name is, uh, the opposition leader, has been languishing in prison, I'd not heard Kikwete say something about that. Did you say anything about him? Trying to fight for for that space
Not
as an
not
ex.
much, not much,
Yeah.
and
So
even that bishop who's was it 200 churches that were closed. We don't hear Kikwete, but Kikwete is in the background. And I think if there is anybody to bear the greatest responsibility for what has gone wrong with Tanzania, beside Mama Suluhu, I think the hammer should fall on Kikwete.
that may be so, but sitting where I sit, sometimes if you look at other systems, uh, the system sometimes is too huge even for Kikwete to penetrate. It's unbelievable how rearrangements happen when somebody become a president. It's crazy. It's crazy. Uh, uh, Even the proximity. Let me disclose something here. Um, I knew the President Obama. Okay, I knew him. Okay, and I thought being a president we are going to be very close. Okay, and the people capitalize on that. One time I traveled to Washington D.C. believing that he had invited me, but these are his friends who paid for even dining close to the White House, and next to the White House was a restaurant there. But he had no knowledge that I was even in town. So these are things that happen. So especially when somebody is secure like this woman, because and she listened to different voices. So the people who could help her are kept miles apart, and others who are close to her are people who are best exploiting that experience. Okay, I think that played a big role here, because the way she's acted is terrible. When a country already has a history of different presidents, in other words, there's so much capital that you have, and just following the script would actually lead you somewhere, very good. And she does the opposite. It's like that king of Israel that had advisors with his own friends and kicked out the other group. Uh, that's what I think, because the way things have happened, she could have had, because when you're a president, you are a consumer of intelligence. You know so much every morning, every day they brief you, and you know exactly what's going on, and you use that information to formulate policies, and that can be able to address the problems. Okay, for her to have had that kind of access to that kind of information, but then what you're hearing coming from her is you wonder if this person is really in charge of anything, because you see, Magufuli may have had some issues to do with trusting people because of the genuine threat that Tanzania had as a nation. People did not want some people did not want Tanzania to follow that path. Okay, that's understandable. Okay, so he may have had his own concerns and feeling, didn't travel much because of other fears. But those are the things that Mama Suluhu should have actually understood, and not to be captured by somebody's own personality. She should have had her own. But for you to simply feel that insecure when nobody is really after you, when you think about it, I mean, I don't understand it, because I defended this woman for a long, long time. Okay, I think even sometimes we have kind of, you and I have to share maneno kidogo, giving a benefit of doubt that in some things, but then instead of learning, she was not learning. Yeah. So that's my concern with her type of leadership. Yeah, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Reverend Lala. We appreciate that, and I think from there we begin to land. Probably you will give your general overview and, of course, your wisdom going forward. But it is said that drastic, desperate measures are required in a desperate situation. I think for now, it is not the time to apportion blame, but take responsibility. And from the look of things, the mentality of trying to arrest the situation without addressing the cause of the situation is not going to bear much fruit in terms of quelling the chaos. If indeed the elections are the trigger of the chaos in the country, the matter election need to be addressed conclusively. But this aspect of assuming that the security officers are going to arrest the situation and bring order back in the country without doing anything about the elections, I think that is a pipe dream that may not materialize. And so I don't know what will be your counsel on it, even as we begin to close. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Bernard, I think the to the escalation of the violence is needed, and they may not solve everything today, but watching that man, the opposition leader, Mama Suluhu, in front of a camera telling Tanzania that we are negotiating, we are talking, this election must be put aside, okay? for the sake of Tanzania, we are together, and we love this country much. We don't want it destroyed. And all of you, the police, put your arms down, and the wananchi, please don't give up, on your nation. Let's protect what we have. This is our Tanzania. Two people in the same space. I believe that will have a significant impact on the nation and even those young people, because young people, all they need is an assurance that this is what you're going to do because they have demanded it. It's the right thing to do. And I think that can be a beginning point. And from there can be committees to be able to look at where the country is, what is really going on, and then come up with some proposal that can guide them towards having a steering committee or a transitional government to help them, save the nation. I think it can be done, it's doable, but Mama has to come down, and those in prison gotta come out, okay? And address has to be made. Instead of the military way, we do it in a loving way, a caring way, for the sake of Tanzania. Our prayers are with you, Tanzania. We are concerned about that beautiful country going to the smoke because of bad leadership. You, Tanzanians, can change the trajectory of your nation by a simple act. The two leaders, or the three of them, I don't know how many they are, coming together, not somebody less than the other, but you come as a nation. And we in the region are with you. We know they are enemies of Africa, enemies that uses the color of your skin and other ways to make sure that you are subject, you're down, you don't have anything, they control your resources. We need to understand they don't mean anything good for us. We don't want to be another Libya, because it's possible Tanzania can be another Libya. You don't want to be a Somalia. You don't want to be an Iraq. These were countries that are doing very well. But look at what's going on in this country. Look at Beirut and other places. Okay? So let us save Tanzania, and let those leaders and those military people bring them together. Go pick all of them, put them in one room, and let them make those decisions. You can help us as military to save our land. Otherwise, my prayer for Tanzania, may God bless Tanzania. May God bring peace to Tanzania. May the region find peace. May good governance be the aspiration, and may we realize them. In all the 3, 4, 5 countries called the East Africa, we need true democracy, true love for the nation. As Baba stated, what he did was not for himself, but for the future. Let us yield, hear, and listen to the voice of our ancestors, especially Baba, and we will save our land. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, as we bring the curtain down on the show, the conversation continues. We urge you to continue sharing the video, liking the video, and then, of course, inviting more people to participate on the comment section, even as you leave your views to be shared with the rest of the world. And to the Tanzanian authorities and the people we love of the beloved country, the United Republic of Tanzania, the leaders especially, listen to the people, like Mwalimu Nyerere said. And what Tanzanians are asking for is to be allowed to elect the person they love to be their president. There are no other demands. They just need an election where they will freely participate and their vote to decide who becomes president. They are sick and tired of predetermined elections. If that is put in the picture and well addressed, the unrest in Tanzania will be put under control. But if you insist that you can use the power of the military or the power of the bullet to silence the masses, I think you're biting more than you can chew. And of course, for the rest of the world, let's also speak up for Tanzania and Tanzanians. No keeping silent from the neighbors and the international community. We kept quiet when things got out of hand in Rwanda and ended up losing 1 million people. There is no more time for silence. The rest of Africa, AU, and the rest of the organizations around the world, let's speak for Tanzania. Let's ensure that the right thing is done. Mama Suluhu and team don't seek reconciliation only, but also address what brought about the drift. Let's call off these elections. Let's buy more time and have an election that the people have been satisfied to have made the decision of where their country is going and who leads them there. I look forward to meeting again in the subsequent programs. Please subscribe to Sound Candy Talk if you haven't. Follow us on TikTok and on Facebook and X as well. I urge us to be part and parcel of what makes Sound Candy Talk Sound Candy Talk. Support us in any way possible to keep the show running without interruptions. Thank you so much. Tukutane tutakapokutana. Yes,
wananchi wanasemaje? Msipuuze kabisa hiyo. Na hiyo nasema, nasisitiza. Msidhani mnaweza mkapata ushindi mkipuuza maoni ya wananchi. Mkasema hili ni letu tu. Ni letu tu. Mnatoka kwenye kikao cha halmashauri kuu, alafu wenyewe mnakwenda kwenye pale mnakwenda kwenye kikao cha wateuzi, wanateua mmoja, mnasema kiulizwa kwa nini mnasema si letu tu. Lenu hamteui katibu wa chama. Mnateua mtu awe rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano ya Tanzania. Kwa hiyo ni vizuri msikilize wananchi wanasema nini juu ya watu wenu hao. Msipuuze maoni ya wananchi hata kidogo. Chama kitakachopuuza maoni ya wananchi kinaweza kikalia kilio, asipatikane mtu wa kusaidia kupanguza machozi. Na ninachowaambia CCM na waambie vile vile na vyama vingine vile vile. Lazima msikilize wananchi wanasema nini. Kwa sababu kama wote ni sawa na wananchi wanampenda mmoja katika hao kuliko wengine, basi huyo ndiye anayefaa. Chama kitakachopuuza maoni ya wananchi kinaweza kikalia kilio, asipate